If you guys want some coins for the new Fut Fantasy promo, please check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself 5% off your order. This supports the channel greatly. So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, I've got some updated 4-1-2-1-2 custom tactics and player instructions. The 4-1-2-1-2 is one of the best attacking formations in FIFA 23. I really do enjoy using it when I am desperate to get those goals. It is quite an aggressive formation though, so just be prepared for that. Now, just before we get into today's video guys, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up, as that does really help me with the YouTube search. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on those notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics. For the defensive style, I like to have this on balanced. This is the same for every formation I use because it gives you the greatest control over your defense, where you're able to press when you need to press and you're able to drop off and be more conservative when you need to be. So it does give you the very much needed balance, especially against those top end opponents. Now moving on to the defensive width, I'm currently just using this on about 43. Anything from about like 40 to 45 is okay. So I'd kind of just go in the middle of that, because you want to cover those central areas primarily when you are defending, but at the same time you want to have a bit of coverage of the wings, so if somebody does try and go down the wing to do those cutbacks, you're also able to reach out. Now the reason I don't go super high with the width is because people still attempt those cutbacks anyway, so it's better to have that compact defense that covers the central areas, as it just makes you a bit more solid. Now moving on to the depth guys, I have this on 65. This is so we're not constantly getting pinned back in our box all the time, but at the same time our defensive line isn't too high to the point where we're always getting through ball. Now 65 is still pretty high, but it is very good if you know how to control it. So I like to have this higher depth as it allows me to win the ball that bit higher up the pitch, but feel free to lower this if you like. Now moving on to build up play guys, I use this on balance. This is because it is the most consistent throughout FIFA 23. You guys know by now that FIFA 23 has very inconsistent gameplay, where it can be fast, it can be slow, it can be laggy. There's so many different types of gameplay, so balance is the most suited for all these different types. Fast build-up is very good with this formation when the gameplay is fast, but it very rarely is, so balance is the way to go. Now moving on to chance creation, you have a bit of a choice here. The main two choices are forward runs and direct passing. Now I suggest direct passing because it allows your attackers to move in that dynamic motion to break through the defensive line. If you look at the diagram, you can see the white dots, which are your attackers. They're always moving around to create those chances. If you look at something like balance, this really doesn't happen. Everybody's very static and you find it difficult to create those chances. Now like I said, the other option is forward runs, and I think forward runs is a better option if you're of lower skill in the game. You might find it easier to create chances with forward runs because it makes your players push further into your opponent's half. So if you're a lower skilled player, you might prefer forward runs, but if you're at that top end, direct passing is the best, as it allows your attackers to bunch up against those defenders so you can do those ISO plays. So direct passing or forward runs depending on what you find better. Now for the attacking width, I'm just using this on 43. It's the same as the defensive depth. The reason for this is we want to play primarily narrow. We don't want to make this a super wide formation, otherwise we might as well just use the wide variation. We've got the centre mids in this formation, so we don't necessarily want to make this super wide. So by having this on 43, we're not super wide and we're not super narrow where our players are sat on top of each other. It's just a nice balance. Now moving on to players in box, this is quite high for me, but I have this on 7. This is so we can really get a lot of players into the box to create as many chances as possible, but at the same time we still have a few players back so we don't always get counter attacks. So this one's down to preference. If you want to lower it a bit because it's too high, that is completely up to you. As for corners and free kicks, I have these both on 1 because I do have a corner kick routine that I use, which requires me to have these both on 1. If you guys want to check that out, there is a link to it in the top right hand corner of the screen. Now, moving on to the players you want to use, guys, in the two striker positions, I suggest going for a bit of a balance between the two, where you have one more creative striker on one side, somebody that can also help, you know, assist as well as finish, and then in the other striker position, just go for like a very clinical striker, somebody that's always going to finish off those chances, so you have a bit of a creative finisher dynamic. That is what I suggest, but you guys can pretty much do whatever you want in this two striker formation. Now, for the cam, you're going to want a nice technical player, somebody that's able to dribble, somebody that that maybe has the skill moves, somebody that's able to pass, shoot, do a bit of everything in that attacking role, because this is your main playmaker in the formation. It's important you use somebody competent, because if you use somebody a bit clunky or somebody that doesn't work well in the cam position, you will find it very difficult to create those chances. Now, moving on to the left centre mid spot, you're going to want to use a box-to-box midfielder. This is somebody that's going to attack and defend, and it really helps with the transitions from the defence to the attack. So go for somebody with a high work rate if you can, so you get the maximum contribution in attack and defence. But if you can't get the perfect work rate, for example, this Pogba is a high medium, just go for somebody with very well-rounded stats so you can get them to attack and defend. Now, in the CDM spot, you're going to want a more defensive player, somebody that's just going to sit back, break up the play, and add defensive support. And if you can get it, a medium-high work rate is perfect, because they're going to be more focused on their defensive work than their attacking work. So medium-high if you can, but if not, just go for a very defensive player with good defensive stats. Now, in the right centre mid spot, we actually use an attacker, like an actual attacker. So you might want to use somebody like Mbappe, Neymar, Messi, Jairzinho, or I'm just using Chiesa here. You don't have to worry about making this a centre mid, because this is not where they're going to play. This will make sense in the player instructions, but just use an actual fast attacking player here and it will all make sense. Now, for the fullbacks, I like to go for a bit of a balance between the two, where my left back is my more attacking minded fullback, somebody that's also going to help us go forward, and then my right back is a more defensively solid player. So I have a balance between the two, but if you guys want to use two attacking fullbacks or two defensive fullbacks, that is completely up to you. As for the centre backs and the goalkeeper, these just need to be as meta as possible, and there's not really too much to say about them there. Now, for the player instructions, guys, on the left striker, the more creative striker, I just have stay central. Now, the reason we have him on stay central is because we don't want him drifting off into those wide areas. He is one of our strikers, so we do need him to be in those central areas, so he is always in the correct positions. We have him on mixed attack opposed to getting behind, because he's sometimes a more creative player, like I said. So we don't always just want him, bombing off forward, getting in behind, because that's not always his role. Sometimes we might want him to sit a little bit deeper so he could pick up the ball and set up our other striker who is more clinical, for example. So stay central, mixed attack on your more creative striker. On the right striker, the more finisher striker, we have stay central and get in behind. Stay central for the exact same reason as before. We don't want him drifting off into the wide areas. We need him to be in the correct positions where a striker should be, and we do have this player on getting behind, so he is always making those runs to get into the best areas to finish off the chances. So this player could run in behind by default, and then the creative striker who's sitting a little bit deeper might be able to play that through ball into this player. So it is a very nice dynamic that does work. Now, moving on to the cam, we actually have him on comeback on defense. Now, the reason we do this is because it's going to make this team defend in a 4-4-2 shape. So by putting this player on comeback on defense, Jairzinho is going to come back to defend as a left mid in a 4-4-2. So the way this is going to set up is the back four will be exactly the same. Jairzinho will be a left mid, Pogba will be a left centre mid, Jorginho will be a right centre mid, Chiesa will be a right mid. So the reason we defend in a 4-4-2 is because the 4-4-2 is one of the best defensive formations in the game. So 4-4-2 over 4-1-2-1-2 when we are defending. Now, moving on to the left centre mid, the more box-to-box player, we have default settings and cover centre. So we have him on default settings because we don't really want to restrict this player. We want him to attack and defend, and we want him to have a bit of freedom in what he does. The only important thing is that we have him on cover centre, so he does defend as one of the centre mids in the 4-4-2. Now, moving on to the CDM, we have stay back while attacking, cut passing lanes, and cover centre. Cut passing lanes means he's always going to be looking to break up the play, and it can also help kickstart attacks. We have him on stay back while attacking because this is a defensive minded player, so we do want him to stay back, and we have him on cover centre, so he does defend as one of the middle centre mids in this 4-4-2. Now, moving on to the right centre mid, the position where we use an actual attacker, we have get forward, get into the box for cross, and cover wing. We have him on get forward, so he's always looking to join the attack because this is an attacking player. We have him on get into the box for cross, so he does make the transitional runs into the penalty box. Otherwise, he's a little bit static, he's a little bit of a passenger, and he won't really get involved. So get into the box for cross, super important on this player. And most importantly, cover wing will make this player defend as a right mid in the 4-4-2. Now on my left back, my more attacking fullback, I have balanced attack and overlap. This is because the 4-1-2-1-2 is obviously a very narrow formation, so sometimes we need to get that extra width to give us a wider option. So by putting him on balanced attack and overlap, it means he's not going to be scared to join the attack, and he's going to make the overlapping runs to add the wide option in our attack. Now on my more defensive minded fullback, I have stay back while attacking and overlap. This is so he stays back while default, so we always at least have 3 at the back, and we have him on overlap because let's say I do trigger a run forward with him with L1, he's going to make those overlapping runs to add the wider option, so it allows us to play narrow and wide at the same time. As for the centre backs and the goalkeeper, I just completely leave them alone on their normal settings. But yeah guys, they're my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-1-2-1-2. If you guys have enjoyed or found this useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.